Hey, Christian therapist, are you craving a counseling career that aligns with your faith and actually supports your well being? Welcome to the Prosperous Christian Therapist Podcast. I'm Kimberly Van Hooser, Christian therapist, private practice owner, and business coach for mental health professionals like you. In this podcast, you'll get practical strategies and faith led guidance to help you build a thriving private practice, one that serves your clients well and makes an impact for the kingdom of God. So, what are you waiting for? Grab your notebook and join me for today's episode. Welcome back to the Prosperous Christian Therapist Podcast. Today, I am honored to have a special guest with me, my friend and colleague, Tracy Nielsen. I've known Tracy for probably 7 years now. We met when I was a therapist in Los Angeles. She was working for a nonprofit at the time, and then she chose to go back to school, get her master's in counseling, and she is just on the verge of licensure. Tracy is also about ready to launch her private practice. She has put a lot of thought and planning into that, and I thought it would be useful to have her on the show just to have a conversation about the whole process of getting ready to launch your private practice and all that entails. So I hope you find today's episode useful and enjoy my conversation with Tracy Nielsen. Tracy is an LMHCA, soon to be LMHC, and works as a therapist in Washington State. Tracy, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tracy and I go way back to our days in Los Angeles. We were actually roommates in LA, and we have ran 2 marathons together. Tracy, what year did you move to LA?
Oh, moved to LA. I think I moved in 2012.
Okay. Did I meet you after you had like several years after you'd lived there already, or is that when I met you?
That's a great question. I'm not the best at dates.
I know. Well,
I was there for a little bit before we met each other.
okay, because I know I'd been there since 2012 myself. No, 2010. I moved to LA in 2010. And then I met you when you were roommates with Shonda, and
Yeah.
Shonda had just moved there. And then we
Yes.
became friends, and then we got to be roommates 2019 through 2020. So I just remember during COVID, I'd be in my
Oh,
little room doing my virtual sessions, and you were in your room doing yours. You were a great
yes.
COVID roommate.
The COVID life.
So, Tracy, can you tell me a little bit about how you got started in working in the field of mental health?
Sure. I got started working in the mental health field while I was in LA. I was working with a nonprofit working with survivors of sex trafficking, and I was running the aftercare programs and outreach and kind of the direct services. And the more I learned about trauma and the more working with the population I did, I was like, I can better serve the people I'm working with if I went back to school and got more education. And so as I was working full time with a nonprofit, started going back to school to really, I thought end goal was to um, work with them, have private practice on the side because nonprofit life, is a little financially rough. And
Especially living in
conveniently
LA as well.
and
Like,
living in LA,
that's
right.
a challenge.
And had a roommate, Kimberly, who's just
Mhm.
living her life being a therapist and having a private practice. So that was really inspiring watching her process and gleaning from her and thinking, oh, this seems doable. And so went back to school. So yeah, just working with a nonprofit. And I had always had this desire of like, I want to walk with people, allowing, like, supporting them to know their truest selves.
Yeah. Well, and I remember when you decided to go to school for therapy, and it just made so much perfect sense. So, like, you were already basically carrying that role as a therapist with everyone that you meet. And Tracy's like the best at just connecting with every person. I remember like we'd be running around in LA on our runs, and you just like stop and like chat with these homeless people as if you were best friends with them. And it made them feel so loved and special. And you just have such an ability just to bring that out in people and just to see them for who they are without even knowing their story. So I think it was a very good career
That's so
choice.
funny. I was on a run the other day thinking my running history and literally made a new friend at the stoplight. She's like, well, do you know where this trail goes? I'm like, oh yeah, and we talked for 2 hours on our run.
2 hours. Oh my gosh, I love that. Yes, Tracy's very
Yeah.
friendly, outgoing human, and it's a blessing to all. So tell me where you are right now in your process of your therapy career.
Okay, let's just talk about process.
Yeah.
Um, I have completed school, finished all my hours, submitted fully everything for licensure, and I am in the waiting game. Like everything's submitted. I am just waiting to
Yes.
get my license, and I can't move forward until I have it.
Okay. And you're in Washington State, correct?
I'm in Washington State, yes.
Okay. What part of Washington?
I so in Spokane, and then
Okay.
just a little, right now I'm Spokane, but I have gotten an office. So this is part of my waiting. I've gotten an office in Liberty Lake.
And so your plan is to be launching a private practice on your
Yeah,
own? Yes. And you're
correct.
just waiting for paperwork and processing to come through so you can do that.
Yes. So right now I'm currently waiting on my license to come through, and then the next step is I'm with a group practice now, and I'm going to credential with insurance through this group practice, and then I get to fully be on my own.
Awesome. Okay. And that was one of my other questions is, do you take insurance and what led you to that decision?
Yes, I do and will take insurance. It just felt like a good move starting out, and I have a solid, like my caseload right now is all insurance, and I like the idea of being able to offer it to more people, being able to take insurance. Um, yeah, and the cash pay is an option for sure. And I do have some clients willing to do that because I'm not
Mhm.
credentialing with all insurances that I take now. But
Okay.
I'm wanting and will continue to take insurance.
Okay. Are you able to carry your clients from your group practice into your new
Yes,
private
thank
practice?
goodness. Yeah,
Oh,
I
that
am.
is a blessing. Okay.
Hmm.
So you'll have like a nice little caseload base as you get
Yeah,
started.
yeah, for sure.
That's great. Is there a certain type of population that you serve? What kind of clients you work with?
Yeah. Right now, I have an array. I have the little kiddos up to adults. I do not see couples or families, and it is a little of everything, but I feel like my sweet spot is PTSD and trauma.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and you did kind of a lot of work with that in the nonprofit in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Um, so you have a lot of skills, I think, that you can carry over into the therapy world, which is great.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there like a client that maybe that is the answer to that question, but if you in like perfect world in the future, fast forward 5 years from now, is there a specific type of population where you're like, yes, this is what I love to work with? Because I know sometimes when we're starting out, we're just like we're still kind of figuring out who our ideal
Mhm.
clients are, and we're wanting to have like our caseload as full as possible. So we'll take on people from a variety of different backgrounds and areas. But is there one specific type where you're like, this lights me up, and if I could just work with this population, I would?
Sure. Yeah. I would say the population ideal is trauma.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like I love working with women for them to just know their true worth and value. And
Mhm.
a lot of trauma, like past trauma experiences and working through that, I would say is my ideal. And then sometimes like sprinkling in some kids in between because I just feel like or teens. I love the balance of the different ages, but I do prefer working with adults and trauma.
Great answer. Okay, and I know that you are a believer, that you love Jesus.
I
So tell
do.
me, how does your faith impact the work you do as as a therapist? So even if you're not marketing as a Christian therapist, how do you feel like your love of Jesus impacts what you do on a day-to-day basis in this career?
Yeah, at this point, I have decided like not to market myself as a Christian therapist, but my faith influences like it's all of who I am, right? And so I think being able to like find peace when I'm working with the clients is like it's at the end of the day, it's not me, and I get to trust God and trust my clients in the process, in their
Yeah,
own process.
that is so helpful to know. Like we have the 50 minutes we spend with someone, and then when they're out of our office, like, okay, it's God to it's on God to kind of utilize whatever has been shared in session to work that in their heart. Because otherwise,
Yeah.
I remember when I first started out in therapy, I was always so burdened by like, oh no, I hope they're going to be okay. Did I say the right things to help them get the breakthrough that they needed? And it would take up so much mental space. But I think that's such a huge resource as a Christian and a therapist to be able to be like, hey, like I can trust that God is using me and he's still at work and still protecting my client even when I don't have eyes on them.
I did my practicum at a residential program, and we did a lot of group therapies. And at the end, our like closure statement we would all say is like, I trust you in your journey and I trust God with you. And I recognize like sometimes that that's an invitation I get to do, is trust them in their own journey, and what their process will look different than what my ideal could look different too.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Are you prayerful about like launching your private practice? Is that something that you spend time kind of praying about what to do with your business or your practice?
All the time. I
Mm-hmm.
felt peace about getting this office, and I have this office space,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm getting to pay 2 rents, and I'm not on it. I'm like, okay, this is confusing. This
Yeah.
like, I think this like anticipation of launching into my own practice, of like, it's not as smooth as I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And it is definitely a process, and there's unknown like hurdles. And like, okay, and going back to, I had peace on that decision and choosing to believe in that peace, because right now
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't make sense. Yeah, so very prayerful in that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is such a leap of faith sometimes of getting your own office space. And I know a lot of people choose to start off virtually because they figure it'll save that overhead. But there's also such a gift sometimes in having an ability for people to come to you in person. And I've
Mhm.
had to take that leap before too. When I was working in Colorado Springs, I was like, I'm just going to start paying for my own office space, even though I didn't have any in-person clients. And I think
Yeah.
it was God was really nice. Like within the first month, I got at least one in-person client. And then I was able to add on subletters several months down the road. So my rent was very inexpensive at that time. But it took that, hey, I'm going to be paying up front or risking paying a lot of money when I don't see the clients coming in, which is scary. But then it was so totally worth it. And I
Mhm.
feel like for you, I remember when you found this office space and there was just something you had such like, you were just like lit up talking about it. And it's
Yeah.
going to be this space like to even fast forward into the future and envision like the work that's going to be done there. And it's your own space you get to kind of create and cultivate for your clients, which is one thing I love about private practice is getting to kind of shape it to be your own and shape the experience that your clients have coming in to be something that's just very in alignment with your values and your heart. And hopefully just, I think it'll be a blessing for them. So
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
It feels surreal. Like, when is it actually going to happen, right? The buildup of school
Mm,
took so long, the waiting or the
mm,
practice, getting hours, and now I'm here, and now I'm like, okay, now I'm still waiting on the license. Like, is
mhm.
this actually going to happen? I
Yeah.
know it will, but it feels still far out. But I'm checking the website every day, and it's still, my
Yes.
license is still pending. But I'm like, okay, come on.
It will come. I remember that happened to me in California as well, where I was initially licensed. So I finished grad school, and I think it took about 3 years until I got my hours completed. And then the California licensure process, they weren't online. You had to send in all paper stuff back then. I think they've since upgraded, but it
Yeah.
took at least 6 months before they actually submitted or sent me my license. And just the waiting period was so hard. But then once you get it, you're like, hey, the 6 months felt like a really long time when we're going through it. But in the long run scheme of things, it will be fine. You will still be able to build a good practice and lots of years left to do good therapy with people. But waiting, yeah, waiting's tough.
Waiting's
Yeah.
tough. That's I keep like, okay, long-term goal. Like,
Yes.
this will be over before I know it, and I'll in the grind of a practice.
Yeah. And even
But
just in general, if you're going into private practice, I feel like having that long-term goal in mind is so important for us because
mm,
practices aren't built overnight, and it's like there's the ups and the downs, and there might be different seasons where, oh my gosh, like where are the clients? Why aren't they coming? And then you'll have like an influx, and it's just the so many shifts and changes. And if we forget about like, why am I doing this and what's the purpose for it, then it can be easy to feel really discouraged. And that was
as
one
an
of my questions.
outsider, like being a roommate and being your friend and watching you develop your practice, like observing you in the highs and lows, you're like, okay, my client load is low. Oh, we're great, we're solid.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I had such peace watching as a,
Oh,
here to watch you, but to see God's goodness, just like,
yeah,
He provided every time.
he
But
does.
you were also like, oh no, what's happening? Okay, we're
Yes.
good, we're solid, right?
And
Just, yeah, the ebbs and flows of it.
it's always easier to be the friend on the outside, being like, I have perfect confidence that the
Yeah,
Lord's taking care of you. But when you're the one in it, it's just like this feels super, super scary. And
just
that raises another point. I know a lot of my listeners are single income earners.
Yeah.
And same for me I just got married in February. So I've been in practice for 10 years. And so it's been my sole source of income.
Right.
I had a lot of other side jobs as I was building as well too, but me being the sole income earner. And I know Tracy, you're the sole income earner for paying your bills and everything. And I think that presents like a different challenge when you're doing private practice because it's not the stable income that comes with health insurance and all the things. It can be very up and down and kind of scary. So is that something, do you want to speak at all to your experience with that? Is that something that like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I feel like what I'm doing is calculated risks,
Mm-hmm.
but there's still a risk in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's intimidating. And
Mm-hmm.
then being the sole income earner, it's like, okay, there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of unknowns and just trusting the process.
Yeah.
And even the process of decision making of like marketing or do I even like my website or like a lot of decisions on how
Mm-hmm.
to do this is
Yeah.
intimidating. Like
Yeah. And I think
a
like,
risk, but it feels good. But I'm like, okay, I'm
right.
putting myself out there. This feels vulnerable.
And I think that keeps a lot of people stuck who want their private practice is, well, I need stability. And so I'm going to stay in this current job that I have. And that's not always a bad decision. But I know for me, I had that temptation as well when I was first starting. I had first launched my private practice, and I think I had one client come in after like 2 months, and she came for 2 sessions. And then I had several months before I actually got like a caseload going. So I was working at a university counseling center during the time. And I remember being like, is it worth it? Like, why do I even have my doors open? I could just stay here. And yeah, the pay is not great. And there's all these other issues with it. But at least I have that stability. But it was not life giving for me to be in this like 9 to 5, like job working for someone else and giving a huge amount of the paycheck away to them as well too. And so I was like, okay, I've got to stay in it, stay trusting where God was nudging me into private practice. And I'm so glad that I did that. But it's really hard and scary. And I remember thinking like, oh, well, if I was just married, I'd have that like peace of mind that my mortgage is at least covered or rent at that time or helps with the bill. So it's not all on me. But then also I remember seeing that a lot of my married therapist friends were like, yeah, I'm going to start private practice. And they kind of start and then it would fizzle out. And mine actually was ended up doing way better than theirs. Because I think
Yeah.
there's a motivation and a drive that comes from, well, this is my income, got to make more money. So we stay in it. And that
Mm-hmm.
helped carry me through in a lot of ways too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. But it also has taught me just to trust and depend on God to be my provider. Because I think it can be easy to be like, oh, well, my job is my source of provision. A husband could be a source of provision. And sometimes God works through that. But ultimately, it's like God. And I even remember when I, before I moved in with you, Tracy, I had a roommate who ended up leaving. And it was like a 2 month, I think there were 2 months before I got another person to move in with me in LA. And LA rent is very expensive for you listeners who
That's
don't know.
crazy. Mm-hmm.
And so to go from paying like whatever my $1,300 a month to needing to cover like $2,600 a month in rent is a significant deal. That's a big deal because we're all living paycheck to
Really
paycheck.
big deal.
And during that month, God like brought in this influx of clients to my private practice, and I was able to cover that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just this reminder of like, hey, I see your bills and your needs, and I'm still gonna pay for you, you know.
Yes.
And then after I got a roommate, like the clients kind of fizzled off again. I was like, what? It was so fun to have that. And he was like, sometimes your daddy gives you money and it's for lunch. It's not to go spend it at Nordstrom because I wanted to have like all this extra
Oh.
abundance. But it's like, I see your needs and I'm going to cover those. He sometimes will also bless us with extra as well too. But just to encourage
Yes.
any listeners out there who are struggling with the ups and downs of finances is that God sees you and he'll continue to provide.
Mm-hmm. I feel like what helped is also I have a wonderful supervisor. I've had great ones throughout the time.
Mm-hmm.
And she's been such an advocate. She's like, oh, Tracy, without a doubt, I absolutely believe in you being able to do this. And just like, and then there's the times where I'm like questioning myself or uncertain, or can I do this? Do I have what it takes? And she is like, to feel so believed in by someone I highly respect. I'm like, oh, wow, okay, I
Yeah,
can do this. I got it.
you can and you will. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's so helpful to have supportive community or other people, relationships, and
Mm-hmm.
mentors in this field to pour into us or just to come alongside us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
have a high value for input or be able to process with people. So to like,
Mhm.
I really lean on like, okay, I need to process this out. What does this look like? Or
Yeah.
like, hey, I need some encouragement right here because this feels a little rocky.
Right. Yeah. Well, and private practice can also be kind of an isolating job because it's just
Mhm.
you and your clients. And obviously, your clients are not there to listen to your struggles and concerns and fears. So I think that has been very necessary to be able to foster that, like having a sense of community. And that's
Yeah.
also something with this podcast has been such a blessing to me to see other therapists out there who are believers, who are in private practice or desiring that, just to be like, I'm stressed out about this, or I find this really overwhelming. What do I do? And it's kind of fun to be 10 years into private practice myself and recognize, hey, I actually have good things to offer to people. I've learned something through my experience because it can be easy to still feel like I'm still in the learning process. We're always going to be learning. We're always going to have those struggles, I think, with some insecurities or anxieties.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that what we have learned already is not going to bless someone else. So being able to be in community allows you to be blessed by them and like bless other people with
Yeah.
your
Oh my
knowledge
gosh, I
too.
just think of the times like as I started school or just needing to process with you or just like normalize this or like simple questions, but I was like, I
Mm.
don't even know. Help me, Kimberly.
Oh, I remember, I think that actually helped inspire me, like wanting to move into like private practice coaching was you like asking me certain questions. I was like, oh, I
Oh.
do know the answer to that. Wow. Like, hey, I have a good answer and it's helping someone. And so thank you. You have played a pivotal role in where I am
Ooh.
now and what I'm starting. So
That's awesome.
appreciate that. What made you decide to start private practice versus just working at your group practice longer,
Mm.
doing non-private practice?
Yeah, I come from a family that have like both sides entrepreneurs. And so my undergrad is in business, and I've just had this idea of like, I see the autonomy that my family or have observed people in that world or having their own business have over their life and their schedule and creating that work-life balance and like, oh, what life do I want to build? And I was like, I could do this. I've studied business. I thought I was going to take over my parents' business. That was definitely not the direction I wanted to go in life, but a skill set of studying business has been really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Like stepping into this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You have your undergrad in business, which is cool because I think most of us who go into get our master's in therapy, we don't have that business background. So then that
Mhm.
can be an even bigger step into private practice because we haven't learned how do we start, how do we run a business? You have to do it kind of on your own. So how has that degree helped you, do you think?
Oh, how has it helped me? But that's interesting because I think it's created maybe that was forever ago. So it feels a little rusty.
We're not that old, right?
We're not that old. Um, but I think it's kind of structured my processing or their comfort of risk or even like awareness of marketing. And so I think it's just structured my mind in a way that is more business or like proactive
hmm
in the development or like forward thinking.
hmm Yeah. I bet it's like primed you in many ways where it's like kind of
Yeah.
second nature versus I think there's a lot of therapists who start out and they're like, sure, I'll see 50 clients for 20 bucks an hour and I just want more clients.
Mhm.
And it's like recognizing that's not sustainable. And even just like the outside external costs that go into running a practice and I don't know, even like scheduling time. I was thinking the other day, like there's so much time that is not technically billable for therapists that we need to factor in. We still need to take the time to do it in our own practice. Like yesterday, I had a coaching client in the morning and then it was like an hour later and I'm like, oh, I'm answering emails. I'm calling a new referral. Like there's all these things that you're not technically getting paid for right then, but you have to make sure the fee that I set and the number of clients I see is going to sustain and provide for those hours that I leave in my day too. So business can be so complicated.
So
I don't know
complicated. Yeah.
for those of you listening who don't have any business background, you can learn it because I had no idea what I was doing when I first started. And I remember someone saying to me when I first was starting private practice, like, "Oh, you're an entrepreneur." And I was like, "No, I'm not." Like I did not identify with being an entrepreneur at all. I was just like, "What? No." Like I did not see myself as business minded. And now I love being an entrepreneur now and just the creativity and freedom that comes from getting to like, hey, I think to run this group. I'm just going to start it, or I'm going to start a podcast or write a book, and all the different things you can do when your own business. The sky's the
Well, I
limit.
think it's
So,
been fun to see you over the years of how you've been developing yourself. Or I would hear you
mm,
like, oh yeah, I have a business coach meeting, or like as you would be receiving one or
Mhm.
seeing you put in the work behind the scenes or watching these groups come about over your like having your vision of what direction you're
Mhm.
going. And then it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, you did just launch a book. Yeah, you're launching a podcast. Like, look at her just killing it, making the moves.
Yes. And it's definitely been like a messy, unclear process. And it's kind of funny
Yeah.
because I feel like this year for me has just been like finally fulfillment of like many things that have been
Mm.
in process for a long time. And that just feels so good. But then it's like, oh, but there has been so much work and mess and like confusion and stress and all the things. As Tracy mentioned, like, let's talk about process. So
Yeah.
I think, and God's just so faithful through it all. And it's just so relieving when you actually see the fruit from it. So
Yeah.
that's just an encouragement too, I think, for listeners to know, yeah, that
There
if you're
will
in a
be fruit.
process and it looks, yeah, there will be fruit. Just stay in it, stay in it, stay with the
Yeah.
planting and figuring it out. And God is faithful. So
Mhm.
that's good. Where do you, let's see, let's just envision like 5 years from now. What do you hope and see for your practice? Are you going to stay solo
Fun to dream
practitioner? Do you
of.
want a group practice where you're like mentoring other therapists? What, do you have any ideas of that yet? Or are you just focused on let me get launched?
For sure right now it's like yeah it's just surreal like absolutely like let's get launched, let's make that happen. Oh, I would love to have a group practice one day and have some other therapists and being able to mentor. I love being able to like raise people up, but I also love community too,
Mm-hmm.
so in that aspect.
What do you feel like are your biggest fears in starting a private practice?
Biggest fears, like how are clients gonna find me? Like how does this keep going? How like I'm found right now through group practice, Psychology
Mhm.
Today, but
Mhm.
there's such value in word of mouth, right? So I've been practicing maybe like 2 years here now. So it's like slow, but I just moved back from LA 3 years ago too. So it's like I knew networking in LA and back here, I'm like, I feel like I just started fresh.
Mhm.
In networking. And so um like trusting the process that clients will come.
But my biggest fear kind of even being just like sustainability. Will my practice be sustainable? And I think underlying that is like, will I have enough money to pay my bills? You know,
Yeah.
and in order to have money, we need to have clients who are not just they come in, they get help and they leave, but ongoing referral streams and things like that. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. So right now, you mostly your clients are from group practice. Have you put any thought to like how you're going to market or network for your own practice?
I think about that all the time.
Mhm.
But I don't know how to like clear strategy. Like
Yeah.
I know so in this area there's a group Facebook page for like psychotherapists, which is really helpful. People post all the time
Mhm.
uh, about referrals or new licensures or whatnot. So like utilizing that. I know that what's been challenging because I have a really full caseload, but there's different area or different group practices that just kind of have meet and greets that I would love to be able
Mhm.
to join those and start networking more locally. And
Mhm.
it's helpful, like I am part of a decent sized group practice. And so even the internal networking that happens and staying connected when other therapists launch.
Mhm.
So I think my idea right now is just relationally.
Honestly, I think that's like the best practice if you want long-term incoming referrals and resources is to start connecting with people and let yourself be seen and known and becoming a presence in the community or building those connections with people because if there's a personal connection, they're gonna and they find someone who's like, "Oh, I'm looking for a therapist," they're gonna automatically think Tracy. Versus I know a lot of Tracy, you're more of an extrovert, but I know a lot of therapists are more introverted. They do not want to go in person network at all, and they just hope people can find their website. And there are definitely SEO tactics and things you can do to have an online presence, but there's something about like that personal face to face, like what you carry with you, that kind of is it, that can be so attractive to people. And so when you can have those like starting to build those relationships and networking with other professionals in the area who might know your ideal client, that's going to
Mhm.
serve well for the long term, even if it doesn't feel like it's like fast turnaround.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a good tactic. Just get to know people, let people know you. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Do you have any advice for listeners who are wanting to start their private practice? Maybe they haven't taken that step yet, but it's something that they desire, or
Mm.
just from what you have learned so far in your journey.
I think my advice is trust yourself. Yeah, and just like trust the process and then the becoming and in the vision that you do have.
That is a good one because I think so often we second guess kind of our own desires or decision making. And I know as a Christian, I'm constantly, and Tracy, you too, you said I pray about my business all the time. I'm being prayerful about it, but I think even when we're praying about it, we're like, well, I'm not getting clear direction from God saying, do this, or this is why this is happening, or go market with this person. Sometimes we might get that, but more often than not, we don't. But trusting that like God sees me as trustworthy, especially if I'm a good daughter who's taking time to listen to him, like he's going to say, like, hey, like I trust what you do too. And there was
Mhm.
something that's just coming to mind I was thinking of the other day, a teaching I heard where he was talking about how like we as children of God, like sometimes children will operate under an assignment and sometimes we operate under permission. And so an assignment would be a specific, if I tell my kid, hey, you need to take the dishes to the sink and wash them. That's an assignment. We're supposed to do something very specific. But if that child was also like, well, can I go into the living room? Can I go upstairs to my bedroom? Can I do this? Can I put on the sock right now? Like we'd be like, what's wrong with you? You know, because there's also permission we've been given as part of the family where kids know this is what's allowed in my family. I don't have to ask all the time. And that was
Mhm.
just like, oh, that's so good. Like for those of us who we're children of God, we can trust that He gives us permission to operate freely and creatively within
Mhm.
certain boundaries. And so we don't always need like a specific go with this, you know. So
Mhm.
we can trust kind of our own, oh, this is what I think would be fun and good to do. I'm going to try that. And I think
Mhm.
trust that there's favor from the Lord on that. So yeah.
That made me think of even before I was so anxious about taking my licensure and the
Mm,
exam. And I remember you saying something along the lines of like, God's not going to bring you this far and leave you hanging at a licensure.
mm-hmm,
Like you have
mm-hmm.
to do it and believed in. And I was just like, yeah. And it's like so true up to this point of just like trusting that He's faithful and coming through and
Yeah.
like it's going to come about whatever direction. Wouldn't think my delay in my license would be taking this long, but choosing to believe I know it's going to come in
It
the
will.
process of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, that's so awesome. Well, Tracy, I've really appreciated having you on here today and just sharing about where you are in the process of starting a private practice, even with all the hurdles and everything that's come. But I know it's been a blessing to our listeners. How can
Good to
listeners
be here.
connect with you? If we have, because I know she's in Washington. Are you open to, if people are like, oh my goodness, I'm nearby, I want to connect with Tracy, are you open to that?
I'd love to connect. I have created a website. It's tracynielsen.com. I think it's a
Excellent.
good place to connect from.
Okay, I will post that in the show notes below, Tracy's contact information. Yeah, anything else that you would like to share or say to our listeners, Tracy?
I think starting this, I was like, just my heart, I guess, was normalizing the process. This is
Hmm.
my own process. And how many times can you say the word process in one thing?
Hmm.
But just believe in the unfolding of what you're stepping into.
Yes, that is so
And
good.
yeah.
Words of wisdom. It is a process, and process, there's such blessing in process. I know I get very outcome driven sometimes. I'm just like, I want to get from point A to point B and just have it be there. But then life would actually be really boring, and you don't often get the strength or the skills that you need if you skip a process. Yeah.
Just one other thing. My friend said the other day, who she's like, Tracy, it sounds like you're like in labor or even
Mm,
before that, right? And she's like, it's you're at the place of you can't wait for your baby to get here, but then you're going to be exhausted and then you're not going to sleep because then the baby's going to have your needs too. And I'm just
mm,
like, just enjoy this labor right now before your baby comes and slowing down. I'm like,
mm.
oh yeah, because I know my baby is coming and I know we're at full term, but it's like, okay, can I slow down and just enjoy this process right now? Because
Yes.
life will look completely different, which I'm totally once I'm fully launched into my own practice.
Tracy, thank you so much for being here with me today. If you want to connect with Tracy, maybe you're a therapist in Washington State or you have clients you want to send her way, her website is www.tracynielsen.com. I'll go ahead and post it in the description as well. Head on over to Facebook and join my free Facebook community, The Prosperous Christian Therapist, where you can connect with other believers who are in the field of mental health and either working in private practice or considering that. I'd love to see you there. If you have any feedback, comments, questions for me, I'll go ahead and link my contact information in the description as well. I love to answer questions from my audience on podcasts. So if you have a question related to working as a Christian in the mental health field, how to launch a private practice, marketing tips or suggestions, I'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.
If you found value in today's episode, would you take a moment to leave a written review on Apple Podcasts? It helps more faith-led therapists like you find the show. And don't forget to join my free Facebook group, The Prosperous Christian Therapist, where you can connect with myself and other fellow clinicians for encouragement, tips, and support. See you there.